Welcome everyone. Why on earth does anyone need a Pro iPhone? It's not me trying to be mean, it's a serious question here. I wanted to upgrade my iPhone 12 mini and I was looking at the iPhone 14 Pro, the brand new iPhone. I'm like, hey, I'm going to upgrade to this one. Last year I had the 13 Pro Max, it was way too large. The 12 Pro Max was the same deal. Before the 12 mini and the 13 Pro Max I had the 11 Pro Max. So it's not like I've never used a Pro iPhone before. Pro iPhones made sense back in the day. With the 11 Pro Max, you had the OLED screen, you had the way better camera system. It just made sense to get the Pro or the Pro Max back in the day with the 11 series. With the 12 series, they gave you the OLED display that was still 60 Hz, so 12 Pro wasn't really worth it. The 12 was great. With the 13 Pro had the way better camera system, the 120 Hz, and then with the 14 Pro, what? Like, actually, what do you get? So let's discuss, okay? From the 12 mini to the 14 mini, we get the larger screen. I don't really care what size I have, as long as it's not a Pro Max, with a big, thick, ever since they did this boxy design, a Pro Max has just been unusable. 14 Pro, great size. I know I'm indifferent. I can get used to whatever size I use. 12 mini is not too small for me, believe it or not. You have the dynamic island here, which is cool and all, but is it really that cool? I haven't really noticed a quality of life improvement. It's like, the notifications just display differently. The world doesn't really end. As far as performance go, you do get a slight performance boost, okay? Close out these apps, open. If I go to a sub menu here, maybe slightly faster on the iPhone 14 Pro. After a fresh reboot, all the apps will load up slightly faster on 14 Pro, but it's not a very big difference, right? If I go to photos, virtually the same, like, it really is not a big difference. In that case, the 12 mini was faster. Like, there really isn't a big performance issue. You can notice it on 14 Pro very slightly if you have it side by side, but that's it. And I was like, 120 Hz is cool and all, but do you really need it? Like, just think for a second, okay? If your phone's primary use is social media, if your phone's primary use is watching videos, what part of that requires 120 Hz? The answer is none. The only reason why you'd want it on is for gaming. Yes, I understand that, but I don't game on a mobile phone. I game on my iPad, right? My iPad, 120 Hz, I'll have that on. But on an iPhone, it just drains battery, right? The argument of your phone's going to be less smooth at 60 Hz doesn't really apply to iPhones, right? iPhones are really smooth at 60 Hz. On an Android, you can tell the lag, okay? It looks really bad, but on iPhones at 60 Hz, it's really smooth. It does take a while when you turn off 120 Hz to get used to the 60 Hz, but once you're used to it, you're used to it, it just takes a little bit of time. It really is not as bad as you may anticipate. And you're always on display, it's cool and all, but right, on the iPhone 14 Pro, this isn't always on display 24/7. Oh, I want to see what the time is. It's right here. I want to see the weather. It's right here. The sunset right here. This is always on display, right? Okay, if you don't have an Apple Watch, maybe you'll find that one useful. But for me, I do have an Apple Watch, so it's not very useful. Okay, so the battery life, it's going to be better than 14 Pro, but with the 12 mini, it hasn't really been that bad. It really has not been that bad at all. Maybe because I only have 1 to 1.5 hours of screen time on my phone a day max, if that. I know some people will have 10 hours a day. Okay, maybe. Then you're going to be looking at the Pro, but why the 14 Pro? Are you seeing where I'm coming from here? All these new features, they just don't seem very useful. Okay, they really do not seem very useful. And this whole time, I've had an iPhone 14 laying around. What's wrong with this phone? What is wrong with this phone, okay? Same size. Okay, last year's processor, but this year's processor isn't much better than last year's. Really is not. Battery life's still going to be decent on this device because the A15 has way better, power consumption optimization compared to A14. The A14 power consumption is not the best, but it's still more than good enough. Okay, so great battery life between the two. Okay, you have a notch, but is that really a big deal? Okay, you have 60 Hz, but 60 Hz looks great. I'm just trying to struggle to understand why anyone needs the Pro iPhone. Like, you have better cameras, cool, but like, really? Is that worth a grand? Like, when I take pictures on my 12 mini, I don't think, oh, these shots look terrible. I don't. I really don't. They look perfectly fine. They look perfectly fine. I've just never had a situation where I've been like, oh man, if only I could upgrade. Remember, people used to use the iPhone 6's camera, for crying out loud. That camera ain't that bad. Seriously, it ain't that bad. In 2019, I used to use an iPad mini 5 with that iPhone 6 camera sensor to take pictures. It was not that bad. It really wasn't. The pictures look good. They look good, okay? Unless you're like a professional, like an actual professional doing photo editing. But then you'd buy a proper camera, you know? Am I going insane? Let me know in the comments. I've just... Look at this phone. I just can't see a reason why I need to upgrade. Really, I do not see the reason. I can understand if your main phone is getting too slow. I can understand if you have an LCD display and want to upgrade to OLED. Then you may want to get the latest and greatest. But if you have an iPhone 12, iPhone 11 Pro, you know, iPhone 13, I don't know why you'd even consider upgrading with a 13. If you have a device with the OLED screen, these phones don't even look appealing. And then it's like, why spend all this money for 14 Pro, which actually has worse battery than the 13 Pro? And, you know, okay, it has a slightly better processor, but like 1% better. Why would you spend the money on this when you can get last year's 13 Pro? Camera system is slightly worse. Okay, you don't have a 48 megapixel camera, which, oh wait, it only uses 12 megapixels of those, unless you do a 2x zoom. Like, you just have, it just doesn't make any sense. This phone is like 1,400 quid, something like that. And I'm just not seeing 1,400 quid of value, right? By the way, I bought the 512 gig. The main reason I wanted to buy this phone is because I currently use a Sony Xperia Pro I for recording. You may have never heard that phone before. Essentially, the reason why I never heard of this phone is because the phone overheats after like 10 minutes of recording. But I put an active cooler system on the phone, so it never cools down and never overheats even. So this phone's camera is actually the best camera in the world right now. The reason why I haven't heard of it again, because it can't be really used unless you have active cooling. So I'm happy with my camera, right? If you buy a proper dedicated DSLR camera, you're gonna have a better camera quality than this, believe me, right? So there is just no reason. There really is not. They can say the camera's this, the camera's that. The facts are, my camera right here is better than this one, right? I was kind of surprised to find this out. Like, how many years of me using the iPhone 12 mini before I upgrade? It could be a while. It really could be a while. And it's weird to say this. I used to upgrade my phones every year religiously, ever since the iPhone 11. In fact, with the 12 I never upgraded, but I had 11 Pro Max from there. The 12 Pro Max wasn't better than 11 Pro Max. It was just too bulky, so I never upgraded to that one. And then I got the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and then I got the 12 mini. Now I'm not even going to consider upgrading for a very long time. I've just realized that when you have the OLED display, you know, once you have that one, the processor is more than good enough. The A13 is faster than the latest Android still. The problem is Apple products are just too good. We cracked the case. Apple products are just too good. There is no reason to upgrade if you have an Apple product which is made in the past, what, 3 years? 2019 phones and onwards, as long as you don't have the iPhone 11 or the 10R, there is no real reason to upgrade, which is so weird to say, but it's true. So we cracked the case. You know, there's no real point on the Pro unless you're upgrading, and you know, you're going to be upgrading like 5 years time, because I ain't upgrading this for a while. And honestly, I may upgrade this to the 13 mini in like 4 years time. We'll see. I doubt that, but you know, we'll see, right? So with that being said, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Bye bye.